Welcome to Sacred Spaces Advanced School of Ancestral Communication. I'm Queen Carlenia Springer, and I am Nana Adra's daughter. You know, Queen Danae McCain yesterday, she said, "Show your book." And so this is actually a proof of my book. So you guys will pre-order it. It's a proof of my book. Um, and you see, I don't know if you can see, but I literally have markers in my book because I read my own book. So somebody asked me, they said, "Well, you wrote the book. You read the book." Yes, I read it. I didn't have an intention. I didn't have any conscious intention of writing this book. But in here, the ancestors literally showed me. They literally began to connect the dots between my earlier life and what has happened up until this point. And so there are times when I'm just, I'm guided to just to go and to read something, but it is absolutely fascinating. So I know if I'm getting insights, I'm teaching you what I know, but if I'm getting insights, I know definitely the insights you get will be absolutely phenomenal. There's already a resonance if you even are interested in anything that I'm saying. And if you go a step further and get the book, I actually encourage you to gather with two or three of your friends who are of like mind, and you all create a study group, because there's information in here that will lead you to things that would help to explain in even greater detail what I'm speaking about. And I'm willing to come and, whether you do a breakfast, a brunch, or even a dinner gathering, I'm willing to come and have that conversation with you all for just a small nominal fee, nothing extravagant. But I want to be able to engage with you and, answer questions and hear your stories, learn from you as well. Because when I first, um, when I my first Soul Mark for Life gathering, we did at the Baltimore War Memorial, and you would think, or at least I thought, okay, I'm going to talk about my book. But you know what? I barely talked about my book. I had my sign. This is Nana Afi, who governs the planet that we call Venus, but in the Akan culture, they know that planet as Afi. And um, and when I looked at the results of that gathering, it was very powerful, because we had people from all walks of life, and as they began to share, I started and I set the tone, but as they began to share, I saw the gaps in our knowledge being filled in. And so this is not something that, I can sit here and I can write and make my own plans. But the Bible, Jeremiah, I think it's 29:11, says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, plans for you to prosper and have an expected end." And when the story that I begin with in here of my journey to Peru and to Brazil, I knew my destination. I didn't know all of the ins and outs. All of it was already planned, way better than anything I could have planned myself. They did that. So I will, put a picture of the book. And again, this is my proof copy. But I even learned from opening this book, as I just opened. It says, "As I read the plaque near the house, it only gave the history of the white man who purchased it in the late 1700s or 1800s, as if no one lived there prior to that time. The owner had enslaved people, and when he died, he willed his enslaved people to his wife, with the exception of one person. I could feel the cruelty under which they lived. The wife was well off and could have freed the people, but she chose not to do it. I could feel a fierce anger rising within me towards this woman who I didn't even know, who had destroyed the lives of our people left in her charge. What I did know is that I would not be shown all of this if things were not getting ready to turn around. I did not know how or when, but I knew justice would be restored. The basilica. Now that's what the Catholic Church, the shrines are called basilicas. Another, excuse me, another Soul Day walk led me to a Catholic church not far from me. For the first time, I was prompted to go inside. They called it a basilica. It simply looked like a church to me. In my mind, basilicas were grand, like the shrine in Washington, D.C. I discovered this was the first Catholic church in the United States. It was here before Maryland was even became a state. Entering the sanctuary, I noticed a very small plaque on the wall to the right. It explained that slaves and black people were allowed to attend services but had to stand the entire time. I found the distinction between slaves and black people interesting. The history I was taught said black people were brought here as slaves, but here on a tiny plaque was an acknowledgement of a hidden truth. There were pews where people could sit, but in order to have funds to maintain the church, people were charged what they called pew rent. As I walked through the sanctuary, all I saw were white images everywhere: white Mary, white Jesus, white disciples. The one black person I saw was the person carrying Jesus' cross. Walking to the front of the church, a large red umbrella that was used for the Pope stood on the side of the pulpit. I immediately recognized it as a duplicate of the umbrella that the Akan king's attendants in Ghana would hold over the king's head as he went about his business. They also had a hat on display that the Pope wore. I also recognized it as Akan. I knew enough about our culture to know that Akan royalty was not copying the Pope's traditions and clothing. Walking down the stairs into the basement, I was startled to see the difference in architecture. They did not bother to cover up the original stone surface of the building all the way down the stairs. Wow, this was one of the places where our people already had a structure and they built a church right over it. This was exactly what I saw in Peru. Stepping into the hallway, it immediately became apparent I was right. Just as underneath the bridge with all those arches, I was looking down an entire row of arches that did not make sense in the basement of a church. I don't know what they were covering, but it was obvious something was being covered. And I have pictures. I don't know if you can see them here, but I don't think you probably can see them too well here. But I walked towards the back of the room. I found a door to my right. I turned the knob. It didn't move. I pushed it open. Chairs leaned against the wall in front of me. I saw a robe encased in glass. It looked like a small storage room. I stepped in. To my left was a bust of Pope John Paul II. It was so close I could have touched it. There was another door leading into a small chapel for Mother Mary. I closed the door behind me. And the moment I turned my head, I saw this picture of Mother Mary and baby Jesus. I later brought King Newsom to the church so he could see my discovery for himself. So I'm gonna stop right there. But this was talking about my soul day journeys, and I believe in one of these recordings I talked about our soul day and soul washing. The soul day is the day that we come into this realm in the Akan tradition, and for me that's on a Monday. So every Monday I would go through a ritual of praying and literally taking water and washing my head, which is literally the seat of my soul, meaning this is where our divine consciousness takes up residence within our spirit. And so it was on in this book I have a series called Soul Day Journeys, where I literally was being led and shown things in real time that I had read and studied about, but I wasn't consciously looking for or was aware of. You know, before I go, I want to talk about supporting our Black owned businesses and creating a lifestyle out of it, of creating a lifestyle out of. I had a teacher that said it's time to starve the beast and feed the pride. When it comes to our skin and our hair products, we do not need to boycott anybody because we have enough talented people who are manufacturers of their own high quality natural products within our community that we can support, we can redirect our money to and support them to the point where they can hire a family member or they can hire someone in the community. We actually have the capacity to end unemployment among our people. When we come into alignment with who we are, then we begin to understand our function and our reliance on our open enemy for sustenance. Literally, they can determine whether our family eats or not because we work for them. When we pull our attention and our energy away from them and redirect it towards our own people, we begin to build, to rebuild, and to restore our community. And so that is one way. That is one way that we can literally defund the opposition. And that is by supporting our own people. Everybody is not going to get it. That's fine. That's fine. You guys can go to garveynation.com. They're doing that over there, where people who manufacture their own skincare, hair care products, and even other products, books and things like that, they're over there, and there's a whole community of people that are committed to buying only from their own as much as they can, and they buy on a monthly basis. But even besides that, in addition to that, I'm sure you may have a family member or someone in the community that you know that creates skincare products, hair care products, even people with sensitive skin and skin conditions. We have people in our community who understand how to use herbs and how to create products that literally, if you ingest it, it would not harm you. When I was at the Savvy Sisters connection on Sunday, I met wonderful women there. But one of the women that I met, she she created a whole line of skincare products. She had such high quality products. I asked her, I said, "You have a manufacturing plant in your home, don't you?" She said, "Yes." She said, "I don't even have any living room furniture. All of that is where I manufacture my products." And one of her rooms, I guess, is for administrative things, right? But and she was next to a young lady who she said she supports because she makes soaps. So she said their businesses complement each other. And that young lady made a variety of soaps as well. All natural, all healthy, smelling really good. You guys, we have within us, we have within us the capacity to turn our financial and economic situation around individually and collectively. So even those of you who have books who are teaching something, it's time. Oftentimes we see like people produce books and maybe they promote it for a while, but do you have anyone reading your book? Who is reading your book? Who is receiving your message? Who needs to hear your message? We have to support our own, not wait for our open enemy to say yes or give us permission. We don't need permission. We're the kings and queens and the rulers of this world. Our thrones have been usurped, and this is a reversion, a restoration. We are the fire. We are the fire that they fear. They spend 24/7 in fear of who we are. Listen, I can remember a few years ago, I think it was in 2020, either 2019 or 2020, I came across a video in South Africa where a young black man was going around looking for white people who were living in the woods, okay? They were homeless. And when he went, they were scared to talk to him. And he's like, "What? Why are you scared of me?" They said, "Oh, we know you're coming here to kill us. And we know you're just coming here because you're gonna go back and tell your people where we are and they're coming to kill us." And he said, "No, I'm just, I just am documenting your situation. I just want to know your story." They did not believe him. He went to several of these type of encampments. These people said out of their own mouths they were mid-level managers. They had great jobs and all of that. When the economy crashed, and and um, and I don't know all the intricacies of what happened in South Africa, they began to lose their jobs. Okay, So these weren't landowners, but they had pretty great lifestyles, and they knew, because they were even saying that they knew the way they were living was as a result of our people over there not having anything, and they knew the wickedness that they had done, and that's why they were in those places afraid for their lives. So when you hear Trump saying, oh, they're killing white people over there, I don't think they're killing white people over there. Really, the white people would be the first to kill you, thinking they had to defend themselves, because there were other people, other white people who were armed, and they they did not want any black people to come into their space. Now, the images I'm seeing are of black people holding axes and all kinds of, I don't know, instruments to go and attack their own people from other countries in Africa. Okay, this is what happens. What we're watching is a microcosm of what has happened to our people on this in this world, on this planet. This is what has happened to us, and this is what happens when corruption takes over. These people invaded. They came there. There's still a tiny percentage of the population, but in order for the people who are in power right now, they're black people, but at some point they must have felt they have to come into agreement with their open enemy, who they know have no regard for them. They have to come into agreement with their open enemy because of money and because of what they control, instead of putting them out and taking their land back like Traore and them are doing. Take your resources. It's your house. Take your resources. No, they have turned our people's mind around. They've manipulated the conversation so that our own people are attacking each other, and they don't even understand what has happened to their mind. When you take away the culture, this is what happens. Our spirit is wide open for any wayward demonic type spirit to take up residence and to control your actions and your movements, and that's what we're seeing. And so I don't know anyone in South Africa, but I do remember one of my mentors, Dr. Reuben West, went over there some time ago with Les Brown, and he said, they were talking to them about vision. This is after apartheid. They're talking to them about having a vision, and they had lived under such heavy suppression for so long, they couldn't even imagine in their minds anything different other than what they were experiencing. And so they had to take them through like baby steps to literally see, no, you can you can experience life in a different way. So knowing that, and then seeing what is happening right now, or at least what they're showing, um, I see that our people, they literally do not know who they are, and they don't understand who their enemy is. The very ones that they believe, these white people in South Africa that are controlling, they could stop the attacks if they wanted to. They don't want to, because it turns the attention away from them and their dastardly deeds, right? They're still feeding off of our people. It's the same thing they have done, like parasites worldwide. When you realize that you have a parasite attached to you, you can rid yourself of the parasite. It will die. It literally will die, because it doesn't have you to feed off of unless it finds another host. So it's time for us to literally starve the beast and feed the pride where we can. When it comes to our body care and skincare products, we do not have to purchase any of these toxic things from them. Those people who are still fascinated with Fendi and all these trending, all these high fashion things, China already showed you that these things cost $3 or $4, and then they turn around and tell you to pay thousands of dollars for it, and you do it willingly. That's fine. If that's where you are, that's you. But for those of you who understand what is at stake, um, it's time for us to begin to elevate those of us who know how to create products and make products, and to teach the children how to do that, so that they have a means of creating income outside of waiting for our open enemy or someone else who has no regard and respect for our lives to hire us. Everybody, you can see, they hire their own. We can hire our own. Nothing is wrong with us. We have the capacity to do that, and we have a long legacy. We are keepers of an ancient ancestral wisdom that flows through our veins in real time. It's time for us to return to our roots and to access that wisdom. Ashe.